Hello everyone and welcome to our podcast. Imagine you are pouring a hot cup of coffee on a Tuesday afternoon. Suddenly the liquid stops midair. It does not hit the mug and it does not fall on the counter, it just stays there hanging in space. You look out the window and you see a bird frozen in the sky, its wings completely still. The cars on the street are not moving, the people walking their dogs look like statues, and your watch has completely stopped ticking. Today we are going to look at a truly mind-bending question. What if time suddenly stopped for 1 hour? We will explore how this incredible event would affect you if you were the only person who could still move around. We will talk about what happens to the physical world like light, sound, and air. We will also discuss the fun things you could do, the scary challenges you might face, and how this strange hour would change human society forever. We have an expert in physics and human behavior here with us today to help us understand this amazing scenario. Let us jump right into our conversation.
Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be here. This is a topic that sounds like absolute magic, but it is also a fantastic way to look at how our universe operates. When we think about time stopping in movies, it always looks simple and clean. The hero walks around, looks at frozen people, and has a great time. But in reality, if time stopped, physics would get very weird very fast. Time is connected to everything in our universe. It is connected to movement, light, and even the way we breathe. If a magical force stopped time for 60 minutes, but left your body completely free to move, you would enter a world that is totally different from anything you have ever known. The first thing you would notice is a total, heavy silence. Every single sound we hear is actually a wave of air moving through space. When time stops, those air waves stop moving too. That means there would be no wind, no car engines, no voices, and no background noise at all. It would be a kind of silence that is impossible to find in our normal lives.
A total silence sounds peaceful but also a little bit eerie. If air waves stop moving, what does that mean for our breathing? Would there still be oxygen for us to take into our lungs, or would we have to stay in one place?
That is an excellent question, and it is one of the biggest challenges of a frozen world. Air is made of tiny particles. Usually these particles move around freely, which allows us to breathe them in and out without thinking. But when time stops, the air around you freezes like a thick block of glass. If you stay perfectly still, you would breathe in the tiny bit of oxygen right in front of your face, and then you would run out. To survive, you would actually have to keep walking forward. By moving your body through space, you would force your face into new, frozen oxygen particles. It would feel like you are pushing your way through a giant bowl of thick jelly. Every step would require real physical effort because the air is no longer helping you move. You would become a human bulldozer, cutting a path through frozen time just to get your next breath of fresh air.
That sounds like a very intense workout. You would have to keep walking just to stay alive. What about light? How would our eyes see anything if light particles are frozen in place?
This is another mind-blowing fact about physics. We see the world because light bounces off objects and travels into our eyes. If time stops, light stops traveling. That means the light particles are just floating in the air like dust. If you stand still, no light enters your eyes and the world goes completely black. To see anything at all, you would have to move your eyes forward to hit the light particles. As you walk forward, your eyes would catch the light, and you would see a frozen image of the world. But if you step backward, you would step into darkness again because you already collected the light particles in that spot. It would be a strange, stuttering visual experience. The world would look like a series of fast photographs instead of a smooth movie. It would be a beautiful but highly confusing world for your brain to process.
It sounds like you would need to be very careful where you walk. You would be walking through thick air in a world of flashing images. Let us talk about the fun things now. If you can handle the physics, what is the very first thing most people would want to do during this frozen hour?
Most people would probably feel a strong sense of curiosity. They would want to explore their surroundings without anyone watching them. Think about how busy our daily lives are. We are always surrounded by people, rules, and expectations. In this frozen hour, you are completely alone and completely free. You could walk onto a busy highway and stand right in the middle of the road without any danger because all the cars are frozen like statues. You could walk into a famous museum or a luxury store and look at things closely without security guards asking you to move back. You could look at a frozen fountain and touch the water droplets that are floating in the air like glass beads. It would be an amazing chance to see the details of our world that we usually miss because everything is moving too fast. It would feel like you own the entire planet for 1 hour.
That does sound like an incredible adventure. You could see the world from angles that are usually impossible or dangerous. But what about human temptation? Would people try to take things or play tricks on others?
Human nature tells us that yes, temptation would definitely be there. Some people might think about walking into a bank and taking money, or walking into a store and taking an expensive phone. But we have to remember the physics of a frozen world. If you pick up an object, that object enters your own personal time zone. But if you try to move a heavy safe or open a locked door, you might find it impossible. The door is frozen in time, which means it has infinite resistance. It is stuck in the universe like a solid rock. You could not open a simple cupboard unless you had the strength to break the laws of physics. However, you could definitely play funny tricks. You could move your friend's coffee cup to a different spot or put a funny hat on your boss's head. When time starts again, they would be completely confused about how those things happened in an instant.
Moving a coffee cup or putting a hat on a boss sounds like an excellent prank. They would think they are losing their mind. Let us look at a different situation. What happens if you are in the middle of a major emergency when time stops? For example, what if a surgeon is performing a difficult operation?
This is where the frozen hour could become a miraculous gift. Imagine a hospital room where a patient is in critical danger. The doctors are stressed, and they are running out of time to save a life. Suddenly, time stops. The patient's heart stops beating, but they do not die because their body is frozen in a safe state. The medical machines stop blinking. If the surgeon is the one person who can move, they suddenly have an entire hour of absolute peace. There is no bleeding, no drop in blood pressure, and no ticking clock. The surgeon can walk around the room, study the patient's body carefully, think about the best possible solution, and prepare their tools without any stress. When time restarts, the surgeon is completely ready to fix the problem in a fraction of a second. It could save thousands of lives in hospitals all over the world.
That is a beautiful way to look at it. It turns a scary situation into a moment of pure safety. What about other dangerous situations, like an airplane flying high in the sky or a car that is about to crash?
An airplane would stay perfectly safe, hanging in the air like a toy model attached to a ceiling. The physics of frozen time mean that gravity cannot pull the plane down because gravity needs time to exert force. So the passengers and the pilots would just be resting in midair, completely safe. Now, let us look at a car crash. Imagine two cars are inches away from hitting each other on a highway. If time stops, the cars freeze in place. If you are the driver of one of those cars and you can move, you have a golden opportunity. You can open your car door, step out onto the road, walk away to a safe distance, and wait for the hour to end. When time starts again, the cars will crash, but you will be standing safely on the sidewalk, completely unharmed. It is the ultimate escape button for accidents.
That sounds like a true superpower. You could save yourself from almost any immediate danger, but let us consider the mental side of this experience. How would a person feel after spending 30 or 40 minutes alone in a frozen world?
The mental impact would change over the course of the hour. At first, you would feel a huge rush of excitement. You would laugh, you would explore, and you would enjoy the power. But after about 20 minutes, the silence would start to feel very heavy. Human beings are social creatures. We are used to seeing eyes move, hearing breathing, and feeling the energy of life around us. When you look at your best friend or your partner, and they are frozen like a cold statue, it can become quite terrifying. Their eyes are wide open, staring at nothing. If you touch their skin, it might feel completely stiff and cold because their blood is not moving. You would realize how lonely the universe is without the flow of life. You might start to feel a deep panic, wondering if time will ever start again, or if you are trapped in this silent cage forever.
That does sound terrifying. Being alone in a world of statues might make you feel like the last person alive on Earth. You would probably pray for the clock to start ticking again. Let us talk about the end of the hour. What happens when the 60 minutes are over and time suddenly restarts?
The restart would be a moment of massive confusion for the entire planet. To everyone else on Earth, no time has passed at all. 1 millisecond they are pouring coffee, and the next millisecond the coffee is still pouring. They did not experience the frozen hour. But for you, an entire hour has passed. If you moved things around during that hour, the changes would look like magic to the rest of the world. For example, if you walked a mile down the street during the frozen hour, people would see you vanish from one spot and instantly appear a mile away. It would look like teleportation. If you played pranks, people would suddenly find themselves wearing hats or holding different items in the blink of an eye. The world would experience a wave of shock as people try to explain these impossible movements.
It would create so many mysteries. Security cameras would probably show people disappearing or objects moving instantly. How would scientists and governments react when they see these video recordings?
Scientists would go absolutely crazy trying to understand what happened. They would look at digital clocks, security footage, and satellite data. They would see that every single electronic device across the globe lost exactly 1 hour of tracking, or that a strange glitch occurred at the exact same moment everywhere on Earth. Governments would become very suspicious. They would wonder if a foreign country had invented a secret time control weapon. They might start massive investigations to find the person who was moving during that hour. If you were that person, you would have to be very careful about telling anyone. If people found out that you had the power to move through frozen time, you would become the most famous, and perhaps the most hunted, person on the planet. Scientists would want to study your brain and your body to find out why you are different.
So keeping it a secret would be a matter of survival. You would have to pretend that you also experienced nothing at all, even though you have these incredible memories. Let us think about the psychological change in you. How would this hour change the way you live your normal life after that day?
It would completely rewrite your relationship with time. In our modern world, we always complain that we do not have enough time. We say that the days fly by too fast, that we are too busy, and that we need more hours in the day to finish our work or rest. But after spending an hour in a frozen world where time does not exist, you would realize that time is actually a beautiful river that keeps us moving forward. You would see that without time, life is completely stuck and dead. When you return to normal life, you would probably value every single minute much more. You would appreciate the sound of people talking, the movement of the wind, and the simple beauty of a changing sunset. You would stop rushing through your life because you would know how cold a world without time really is.
That is a very deep and beautiful realization. Time is not our enemy, it is the thing that allows life to happen. What about the concept of rest? If you could control this power and turn it on whenever you wanted, would it be good for human productivity?
If every person could stop time whenever they wanted to rest, it would change our global economy completely. Imagine you are studying for a big exam and you are very tired. You could just stop time, sleep for 8 hours in a frozen world, and then turn time back on. To the rest of the world, you never went to sleep, but your body would be perfectly rested. You could finish all your projects, read hundreds of books, and never miss a single deadline. But there is a dark side to this as well. If managers and companies knew that workers could stop time to rest, they might expect people to do an impossible amount of work. They might say that you have no excuse for a late report because you can just stop time to finish it. It could turn into a tool for extreme pressure and overwork.
While companies would definitely try to abuse that power, it shows us that every beautiful dream can turn into a difficult challenge if we do not use it with wisdom. Let us imagine a different scenario. What if time stopped for everyone at the exact same time so that no one could move at all, just a collective pause for the entire planet?
If time stopped for everyone simultaneously, including our minds and our bodies, the answer is very simple. We would never even know it happened. If the universe pauses for an hour, or a year, or even 1,000,000 years, and our brains are paused too, then no awareness exists during that period. When time starts again, we would just continue our sentences and our movements smoothly. To us, the pause never happened. It is highly possible that the universe has already paused many times in history, and we just have no way of measuring it because our instruments and our thoughts paused along with it. It is a peaceful thought, really. It means the universe can take a break whenever it wants, and we just ride along smoothly on the wave of reality.
That is a mind-blowing thought to consider. The universe might be hitting the pause button right now and we would have no idea. It makes me feel very small but also very safe. Let us go back to the scenario where only you can move. If you had to give one piece of advice to our listeners on how to prepare their minds for an unexpected moment like this, what would it be?
My advice would be to practice being comfortable with complete silence and isolation. In our daily lives, we are constantly filling our ears with music, podcasts, and video games. We are afraid of being alone with our own thoughts. If time stops, you are thrown into the deepest silence that exists. If you do not know how to sit quietly with your own mind, that silence will drive you to panic very quickly. We should learn to enjoy moments of stillness today. Turn off your phone for 10 minutes, look out the window, and just watch the world move. By doing this, you build a strong, peaceful mind that can handle any shock, whether it is a magical pause in time or just a difficult, stressful day in your real life.
That is wonderful advice for our modern world. Learning to love silence is a true skill that can save our mental health. Thank you so much for coming onto our podcast today and sharing these deep, scientific, and philosophical insights with us. You took a very wild imagination and turned it into a fantastic lesson about physics and life.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute joy to explore this frozen world with you. It is always exciting to think outside the box because it reminds us how magical our everyday reality truly is. I hope all your listeners take a moment today to appreciate the ticking of their clocks and the movement of the air around them. Have a wonderful, dynamic week, everyone.
What an amazing conversation we had today. To summarize the key takeaways from our discussion, we looked at the incredible idea of time stopping for 1 hour across the entire world. We learned that if you were the only person moving, physics would become highly unusual. You would have to walk constantly just to breathe frozen oxygen particles, and you would see the world in flashing pictures because light would be stuck in place. We also saw that this hour could provide a beautiful window of safety for emergency doctors, a chance to explore our beautiful world from unique angles, and a way to play harmless, funny pranks on our friends. However, we also discovered the heavy emotional weight of absolute silence and loneliness that comes with a frozen world. This teaches us that time is a precious gift that allows life, connection, and movement to happen, and we should value every minute we have. Thank you again to our fantastic guest, and thank you to all our loyal listeners for spending your time with us today. We hope you feel inspired to enjoy the beautiful movement of your day, and we'll see you in the next episode.